Are you a professional woman in Central New York looking to connect with a community that values local talent? Unlock your career's potential with the CNY Women's Network online business directory. For just $9 a month, you can enjoy a premier listing that connects you with a community of engaged customers, recruiters, and executives eager to discover you. Getting started is easy. Simply click the link in the show notes to purchase your listing, and your profile will be live within 72 hours. And one more thing, as a valued listener of the Cultivate CNY podcast, you get 20% off your first month with us. Just use the code Cultivate20 at checkout. That's 20% off your first month with the CNY Women's Network online business directory when you use the code Cultivate20 at checkout. Don't miss out on the opportunity to grow your career and attract new opportunities. Join the CNY Women's Network directory today to be seen, connected, and hired. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Cultivate CNY. I'm your host, Alex Canavan, and I am so excited for you guys to hear from this week's guest. She is an Emmy Award-winning journalist and has covered a wide range of topics throughout her over 10 years in journalism. She currently serves as the editor-in-chief of This Is CNY, editor of Life and Culture News at Syracuse.com and the Post-Standard, and she's also the podcast host of Firecracker on Wondery. Last but not least, she is the president of the Syracuse Press Club. In this episode, we talk about all of the exciting things that's happening in Syracuse, artificial intelligence, and so much more. So without further ado, let's welcome Katrina Tulloch to Cultivate CNY. Katrina Tulloch, welcome to Cultivate CNY.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. It's not often that I get to record with someone who is also a podcast host, but your podcast is very different from this one.
Oh my gosh, very, very different. I work at Syracuse.com, and every once in a while we pick a story that is a local story that matters a lot to the Central New York region. And we might go very in depth with a print A1 story. We could go in depth with a documentary, or we could decide, you know what, we're going to do a 6-episode podcast on this one thing. So last year we debuted Firecracker, which is about the 28-year-old cold case of Carol Ryan. I won't go into the awful details about this cold case, but it was my first time both hosting and co-producing and editing a lot of that audio and telling this woman's story. So much of her story had been focused on her death, and we really wanted to focus on her life, talk to all of the people who were part of this case nearly 30 years ago, her son, her friends, and shine a light on something that we believe is very important and still unsolved here in Central New York. It was the kind of opportunity I remember being actually in this room when my boss was like, "Hey, you want to do this?" I was like, "Yeah, I really want to." And we worked with an amazing team of journalists to produce Firecracker, which debuted about November, so this time last year, and it slowly but surely rose up the charts for true crime. It puts Central New York on the map for a very sad reason, but we believe in doing this kind of journalism on a regular basis. You know, it's a limited series, so unlike yours, which is a serial, which is constantly new episodes, new seasons, interviewing new women entrepreneurs, this was a story that happened in the past, and we wanted to shine new light on it.
It sounds like November 2023 was a big month for you.
Oh my gosh, this time last year, I remember like shaking the night before we debuted it. Not because I wasn't sure it was going to do well or not. I knew that we had created a strong story. I knew that our facts were correct. But there's always just this nervousness that you feel when you've spent a year and a half thinking about one story, one project, and because it's about murder. So it put me in a really negative, hard headspace, right? So I just remember being so shaky when we hit that publish button, when we rolled it out, when we were putting it out on social media. And the response was so positive, grateful from her family, which we were so relieved to see. And we also, you know, this case remains unsolved, but we want to do as much as we can to bring national, global attention to it. Because if even one person has information about this case that they could then bring to police 30 years later, cold cases from 40 years or 50 years ago can get solved because of forensic evidence and advancements today. So that's why we did it.
That sounds amazing. I have never really got into the true crime podcast, but they're huge.
So different from conversational stories about business. Yeah.
Yes. And you know, on the flip side, you're the editor-in-chief of This Is CNY, which is Syracuse's newest brand that is kind of bringing a sense of community and like I said before we started recording, a
Yeah.
romanticization of this region to the area. I love what you guys are doing. I
Thanks.
think that we share a lot of the same
Yes.
values and mission
Oh,
behind
yeah.
what we're both trying to build.
We do.
And I can definitely see how the work you're doing with This is CNY is radically different than the podcast you've been producing as well. Because, you just said you were in a very, almost a cynical mind space, probably. But what you guys are doing with This is CNY is so positive. Can you talk more about that?
Oh, yeah. My editors at Syracuse.com were probably like, Katrina's been thinking about only just dark things for the last year and a half. Maybe we just put her on a brand new assignment. And This is CNY was something that had been bubbling and percolating in our newsroom for a long time. With the investment of Micron coming to Central New York, we realized, all right, thousands of people are going to be coming here. They're going to be turning to local media, to influencers, to a number of people trying to understand, should I move here? Should I move to Central New York? So imagine you're like an engineer in Texas, right? And you don't know a thing about upstate New York. Maybe you think everything about New York is New York City. And we wanted to have specifically a news source and a brand that would help people understand what it's like to live here. Um, our whole mission for This is CNY is to help people decide whether or not they want to come to Central New York. And we think we do a good job at persuading people to come here. Or also, the flip side of that is to help people who already live here decide to stay. And that includes celebrating our neighborhoods, our affordable, high standard of living with affordable housing, the beautiful natural resources that exist here, tons of arts and culture. Uh, Here, compared to other cities of our size, right? We're not trying to be LA, we're not trying to be even like Asheville, North Carolina, or Miami, but we have so much here for the size of Central New York, and we know that people are going to be coming here. So we were like, all right, how do we roll out the welcome mat for them? How do we create this red carpet, this pipeline, so people can make that decision to move to this area and take advantage of all we have to offer here?
Are you from Central New York?
No,
What are some of
I'm
your
not.
favorite parts about living here then?
I'm from Albany, so just down the
Okay.
road.
So you are from upstate New York. You
I
get it.
am. I do. And I loved the changing seasons growing up.
Mhm.
I did live in Roanoke, Virginia for a time after graduate school. I came here for grad school in Syracuse and then moved down to work for the Roanoke Times and roanoke.com for a quick stretch. And I missed New York so much. So when a job opened up here, I scurried back as soon as I could, as soon as I got the job here at Syracuse.com. And I've been here ever since. A big part of why I stayed was it's the people. I mean, I made instant friends here. I loved the people I worked with, developed a romance with a guy at work, and now we're married. So the people were the number one thing. But then on top of that, Syracuse is weird. Like Syracuse has all these pockets of innovators and business leaders, but there's also, you got the Westcott neighborhood, which is like eccentric and artsy. And then you've got Tip Hill, which has these deep Irish roots and there's so much spirit. And then you've got Eastwood, which is like on the rise in a way that I never expected. And all these places are great places to raise a family, yes, to have your life and also be able to travel the world or do whatever else you want in your business or career because it is so cheap to live in Syracuse still compared to so many other places in the country. And then I also stayed because of my job. I love my job.
So last year, right around this time, I had what is now one of my favorite aesthetic treatments done, and I have to tell you guys all about it. So I remember scrolling Instagram and coming across a post from a local woman-owned business that showed a gnarly-looking device hovering over a patient's face, and the caption read something along the lines of, "Now that boat season is over, get rid of the sun damage with our laser facial." I had heard of laser facials before, but I wasn't totally sure exactly what they were for. Then I saw the after photo of this business's patient, and I was shocked. Of course, I had to try it for myself, so I booked myself an appointment at Medicine-Based Beauty and never looked back. Medicine-Based Beauty is your go-to clinic for medical-grade aesthetic services that blend art and science. They offer Botox, fillers, laser treatments, microneedling, and wellness therapies. And they have highly trained professionals that tailor each treatment to enhance your natural beauty. With locations in Ithaca and Syracuse, Medicine-Based Beauty ensures safety and exceptional results for every client. Are you ready to start your beauty journey? Schedule your appointment today by visiting their website at medicinebasedbeauty.com or calling 315-920-0000 5012. Elevate your beauty routine with medicine-based beauty. You will not regret it. From a strategic communications point of view, how are you guys kind of changing the narrative and showing people that building a life here can be beautiful and abundant and prosperous?
What you're saying about people having this kind of chip on their shoulder about Central New York, that is so real. And that is something I'd seen in my decade living here, for sure. And anyone who has a hometown, that narrative of just like, I got to get out of here. I want to see the rest of the world. That's real. That is so real. But what we're seeing now, it's not a narrative that we are creating. It is based in fact that people have for a long time been leaving Central New York. And just now in the last few years, especially with the pandemic, people that population that was leaving has stabilized. And now, with so much investment news and so many business opportunities and people realizing the affordable cost of living across upstate New York, but especially in Syracuse and the surrounding counties and cities, people are realizing, oh, wow, we can really do something cool here and be that big fish in a smaller pond, a medium pond. We're a medium-sized city, and make a huge difference and be able to build our own businesses and thrive in our current industries. That is real. And it's based in seeing that population change. It's based on seeing boomerangs come from. I just interviewed a guy recently who, his name's Eric Hart. He designed the Syracuse flag. He was living in Japan. He had been living in New York and Tokyo, and like for the last decade. And he just moved back to Central New York this past summer. One, because he wanted to launch his business here, and two, because he and his partner just had a baby, and they wanted to raise them here at home. And they love Syracuse. And that is just one example of so many stories we hear in our newsroom every day about people coming back to Syracuse and coming back to Central New York and deciding, you know what, this is where I'm going to grow. And one more thing, I'll say climate is a real thing. Syracuse and the band across the United States where we are, this is going to be a climate refuge in decades, right? So there are other parts of the country that are on fire. There are other parts of the country that are not comfortable to live in anymore. You're seeing flooding happening in Florida. I mean, Syracuse is a safe refuge and will be for our lifetimes. And people are going to be moving here because one, yeah, they love the changing seasons, but they don't want their cities to be on fire. It's a real thing.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around building a home and a life in a
Yep.
place where it could be swept away.
Absolutely.
I would love to emphasize the fact that this is something I'd say to a ton of people, and I said it to you before we sat down. One of the reasons why I stayed here and
Yeah.
I love it here, and I think a lot of people should come here, is because there is room to innovate. A
Mhm.
lot of people would rather complain that Syracuse is 10 years behind or 20 years behind.
Mhm.
But if you just change your mindset a bit, and if you are a dreamer, a doer, an innovator, you can recognize that this is actually the perfect place to start a life because there's so much room for innovation. There is a community that welcomes the
Mhm.
innovation. The barrier to entry isn't so high and competitive and cutthroat like you would find in a city like New York or LA.
No.
So, and there's also so many amazing nonprofit organizations and resources here in this
Yeah.
region that are supporting those people that do want to bring something new to the
And
area.
it's like real support, right? It's
Yes.
like, yes, there's going to be friendly competition in any industry, but there are people truly here, and maybe it's just like the grit of the salt and the cold, but they want to help each other out. They're realizing that for so long, Syracuse, people talked about it like it was a punchline, and
Yes.
that has so drastically shifted in a way that people are like, you know what? We're going to have to band together. And if we want to make this region as great as we expect it to be in 10 years, even 5 years, right? Then we're going to all have to all help each other out. And that is a mindset that has shifted. I've heard it described as like Syracuse with the big ice chip on the shoulder, but I feel like that has melted and we're finally like helping each other out to make this region great.
Yeah. And it's happened so quickly, but especially with all the investment that's come into the region, there is definitely this new sense of energy and optimism. And there's people that are seeing that have nothing to do with this region and they're moving here because they do see that opportunity. So if anything, if you're from here, you've been here your whole life, and if you've always wanted to make this region better, get started because people are coming and people have a plan.
Girl, now is the time. And like I talk to my husband about this a lot. buy housing, like buy real estate, invest in
Yes.
real estate, because I hate to see real estate businesses that aren't from here, that are based in New York City or based out of state, to be snatching up houses. And yeah, they're going to do with them what they're going to do. But if we have local investment here in our different neighborhoods, then it's only going to grow, and then we can all reap the rewards of these amazing investments that are happening in central New York. And we don't want that money to flow out into any other city. Like, it's got to stay here.
Yeah, yeah, and it's already happening.
Hmm.
If and you know, if you aren't paying attention already, you should. We've all seen these new luxury apartments popping up left and right in downtown Syracuse, and
Hmm.
you know, people's minds really need to go to who owns that? Who's
Yeah.
the developer?
Yeah.
Where are they from? And I'm pretty sure the one of the new venues here in downtown, the Palladium Hall, gorgeous. They
Gorgeous.
did a phenomenal job
Yeah.
restoring the building.
Hmm.
But I think the developer's from DC. And I
Hmm.
was just surprised to hear that, because when you think of a historical Syracuse building being restored, you just kind of assume that it's someone from Syracuse with a lot of pride in the area is the one that did that. But
Mm.
it's not always the case. So, yes, invest in real estate. There's going to be a lot of people moving to the area, and the
Yeah.
price of real estate is going to increase rapidly over the next 10 years, probably. So,
Yes.
that's on the to-do list.
And to answer your question, which we took a little detour, but that is what we're trying to highlight on This Is CNY, the real estate offerings. Every single week we have our real estate listings. We also have a job board on This Is CNY. So if an engineer from Idaho is coming to Central New York, but they want to move their whole family, they want to see what school district to send their kids to, how can I find a job for my spouse or for any other family that comes with me? That's why we have that there as well. And we also want to be able to give a lot of information about the quality of life. So arts, entertainment, culture, music, outdoor recreation, all of that is covered on This Is CNY. So for corporate entities, they now have a resource where they can send this to people to help them recruit. It's a recruiting tool also. So you can send Syracuse.com as the news website to anyone who's trying to decide whether or not to come here. But what you're going to see on our main webpage on any given day might be sports, it might be politics, it might be crime, because we're a city news site. That's what it should be. But you're not necessarily going to get a full, complete picture of what it's like to live here. So that's why we created the brand, and that's what we are expecting to grow in the next few years.
Yeah. So on top of, you know, all of the work that you do with Syracuse.com and advanced media,
Mm.
let's talk about Syracuse Press Club.
Sure, yeah.
I would love to hear about
Oh,
how that happened. When
mhm.
did it start?
1951.
Okay.
So it's been around.
Let's hear the lore. Let's hear the
Okay.
history.
So the Syracuse Press Club, it was started by men, all men. A bunch of guys who worked for local papers and worked in journalism many, many decades ago. They got together and they were like, we want to have a place where we can celebrate the best journalism in our area, but also bring people from different news organizations, media organizations, and public relations spots to network and to get to know each other, much like what you do with the collective. I
I
mean, this
know.
is
I want
it.
to. I was thinking of joining the Syracuse Press Club because
Girl, I'll sign you up.
I would
Membership
love.
is $25 a year.
Let's do it. I would love to talk to more people like you.
Well, a big part of what we do year after year are the Syracuse Press Club Awards. And so we are celebrating, recognizing the best journalism and media that's coming out of our region. Podcasting is one of our awards. And we have awards for um, limited series podcasts and also ongoing podcasts like yours. But we also host networking events throughout the year, professional development events where we're also bringing in students, because there are so many students up at Newhouse, Lemoyne,
Mhm.
OCC, great educational opportunities for them to not only learn from other journalists and media executives and PR folks here, but also just have a drink with them, get dinner with them, talk to them. And that's something that we have really focused on, especially in the last 4 years. I became president 4 years ago. It was pretty hard coming in as president during COVID. So we had to cancel a couple of our award ceremonies, but then we ramped them right back up 2 years ago. And I've been president ever since. It's a wonderful club full of people from TV, you've got print, you've got digital folks, radio folks, and also professors
Oh,
who,
cool.
yeah, are bringing their students in to learn from other uh, professional media folks. I mean, we try to keep it loose. We try to keep it so anyone from a marketing person to a longtime news editor to a photographer can all learn from each other
Yeah.
and have constant events where they're meeting and being celebrated at our annual award ceremony.
Yeah. Is there a lot of that peer-to-peer education happening? Do a lot of members get involved when it comes to like the maybe professional development side of what
Oh
you
yeah,
guys do?
that's the whole point. So our next big event is going to be October. We hope we haven't confirmed perfectly with our venue yet, but it's going to be about AI in
Oh
media
yeah.
because everyone is talking about generative AI, how it's going to change our industry. There's still a lot of skeptics out there who are
Okay.
wondering, is it going to destroy our industry? I am such an optimist that I'm just going to say right now, AI is not going to destroy journalism or media, but it is going to change it.
Hmm.
It's going to change it drastically. And so we as the humans in the room, we have to be responsible about how we use it, when we use it, and what kinds of AI we are going to allow ourselves to use.
Yeah.
Because, it's Wild West out there. Everyone thought journalism was going to be over when social media became the main way that consumers started taking in their news. And it's not. It's just different. It's just different.
Well, this industry that we're in, it really has always been this way. It's always been changing and evolving drastically. So I think if you're in this business, you get that, and
Yep.
you might be the kind of person that's open to change.
Mhm.
But of course, there are people that um, have given in to the kind of fear mongering around AI, unfortunately. But
Yeah, of
I
course.
actually, side note,
Yeah.
random, I was thinking about AI in the shower yesterday. I don't know why, but
That's where I think about AI too. Weird.
and I genuinely had a thought like I'm actually surprised that we're over 30 years into the internet and it's
Mhm.
just now becoming a thing. I'm surprised the AI wasn't a thing like
Right?
in the early 2000s.
Isn't that wild? So,
I'm surprised it took so long.
agreed. That's a good way of putting it. It was it was actually 30 years ago exactly that Syracuse.com that a very smart man named Stan Lindhorst bought the domain for Syracuse.com. And this was at a time when newsrooms, especially print newsrooms, were not embracing websites or journalism online. They were just like, no, we don't want anything to do with it. But that, like, if we're talking about massive shifts that happen in the news industry or the media industry, embracing digital news was a huge one that we luckily, thanks to smart people who came long before me, they did that. And then smart people who came before me also embraced social media early on for Syracuse media, for Syracuse.com. And so we are trying to do that exact same thing with AI because the more we can understand and know these tools, the more likely we're not going to be left behind when everyone else embraces them. We were an early adopter of video for, again, a print newspaper. I was a video journalist for the last 6 years. And every time I would say I worked for Syracuse.com or the Post Standard, they're like, I don't understand how you can do video for the newspaper. And it's like, well, we are doing this for our online audience. And we recognize that, listen, print is not the future. It's not. I work for a newspaper and I feel very comfortable saying that. Print's not the future. So we are investing in every way that we can. And then the media environment is fractured. We want to grow in every other way that includes podcasting, that includes video, that includes social. Um, Text lines, like people pay some of our reporters to be on text chains so they can get updates about the Buffalo Bills, for
Okay.
example. And so there are a bunch of different ways where we can grow as media organizations that don't look backward, that are looking forward. And AI is a big part of that.
Can you explain actually how a media company works most of the time? Because there's a million ways to do it, but how
Sure.
do they make money?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so back in the 1820s, um, newspapers, there were a bunch of newspapers here in central New York, for example, and they would make money back then by selling papers. That was it. And then as those papers became more mature and the market changed and a lot of population came to Syracuse in the 1800s, early 1900s, selling papers and then selling advertising in those papers were how the main ways that we would make money. Fast forward to the 1990s, the 2000s, the 2010s, because that hadn't changed for pretty much the last century. It was selling print newspapers. Now we have the internet. So a lot of that print advertising did translate to digital advertising. Uh, one of our longtime advertisers, Olam's or Kraus Health, they would pay us to put their banners and their advertising both in the print paper, but also online. And then as the rise of social media has changed the way that people are maybe deciding to type in Syracuse.com when they want to get their local news, they might instead just scroll by and click a story in order to find out information. And we introduced our paywall, our pay meter, just a few years ago. because we see print numbers declining, but we see digital news subscribers and digital news users skyrocketing. And so we're like, this is where the future is. And so this is where we're going to make money. Now, at the same time, we're not just selling advertising that's going to be on Syracuse.com. We are also making money through video sponsorships. So every time we do a video series, whether it's Brent Axe talking about Syracuse sports, or we've done a number of series with me about like, this is CNY, this is our region, here adventures through upstate New York, we'll get a sponsor. And they'll pay a certain amount of money to be mentioned every single time we do every time we do a video series. Another way would be texting lines and sponsors for our podcasts. We have a number of podcasts, especially in the sports realm. I'm not a sports girly. You're not a sports person also. But our sports audience is huge, and they will pay not just for Buffalo Bills coverage or college coverage, but they will pay for high school sports coverage because it's families living here who want to see their kids in the paper, and they're very interested in that subscriber package, and they might do that just from September to May and then cancel for the summer and then come back in September. That's a real thing, and that makes us money too. So we've made a real effort to diversify. And then on top of that, we have a whole advertising team and marketing team that, while the newsroom is making money doing this stuff, you've got the advertising team and marketing team, they're their own ad agency. So we have Advanced Aviation. That's part of our company. They are doing advertising and video for airports across the country. They do work for Amtrak. Like, they're doing separate campaigns that also, in addition to making money for that part of the company, they're also funding the journalism we do in our newsroom. So I think that's the only way to have a thriving business. It's just like with a single person. It's like you hear about, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income, right? Like, every business has to have multiple streams of income and investment in order to thrive and grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Long answer, but
you know what, for a lot of people that just don't get it. And I think, the reason why I wanted to ask this question is because I'm trying to build a media company.
Yeah, you are.
And it's really hard.
You're not trying, you're doing it. You're doing it.
It's a day by day. And I just felt like, because I didn't have a background in it, it took a lot of digging for me to really figure out how to build it as a business, a profitable business. And I think a lot of people don't realize that media companies are businesses and they have to make money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And if anyone follows Syracuse.com on Instagram, and if they like to go to the comments like me, because I just love the drama.
We love comments. We love mess.
I love the comment section, the comment section. And there's always that one person complaining about the paywall.
Sure.
About
Yeah,
Syracuse.com.
of course. But the paywall is not, like, we don't have our entire business model resting on the paywall. People can subscribe and unsubscribe. We want them to subscribe, obviously, but we make our money in a lot of other different ways. We're also, us personally, we are owned by Advance. We are owned by the Newhouse family. So they are the reason that the Newhouse School exists here in Syracuse University.
I didn't know that. Wow.
We bring in fellows and interns every year from the school because of that extremely strong relationship. But this is also the same company. Advance owns newspapers across the country. They also own Condé Nast. They own the magazine Glossies down in New York. They own Reddit. They're a huge company. I feel very comfortable saying this on camera. We are owned by billionaires. So the ways that we are making money in the newsroom are very different from the different parts of our business model. But you're starting from scratch. And it seems like events are a huge part of your business model. That's something we do too. Like, we'll host the spelling bee. We're not going to make millions from our spelling bee, but it's important because that's important to our community. And at the end of the day, we serve our community. You do the same for your community.
My vision for the company has evolved so many different times. Like, I really thought the company was going to be one thing in the very beginning. And now I'm like, no, it's going to be this whole other thing. But I remember starting out and really thinking, like, it was just going to be the events. Like, we're events. That's what we do.
Yeah.
And then you realize that events really are not generating income for the business. Usually you're happy if you break even, if you make a little bit of profit, that's great. But it's a really great way to get in front of the audience that you want to attract and get that contact information and
Oh,
really
yes.
cast that net
Mhm.
and bring people into your ecosystem, because you're not just entertaining them on social media, but you're giving them an experience, and you're making them feel the sense of community here that you want
Yeah.
them to feel, either through attending your event or engaging with your content.
Yeah.
So I just love to hear about it. I love to sit down with people like you, because I feel like there's so much I can learn from you,
Oh, likewise.
and I would definitely love to continue the conversation after this one.
I
But
would love to also.
I want to talk about you now and get a
Mm,
little, who is Katrina?
okay.
Who's the woman behind This Is CNY and all the other things that you're doing?
Okay.
You are involved in a lot of things. I'm assuming that you're insanely busy, but you come here with such good energy. You're
Oh, thank
not.
you. That's very kind.
So I'm curious, like, what are some of the things that you love to do that are just for you,
Yeah.
that make you feel most like yourself?
I love people. So this is weird because I know I'm an introvert. I know everything about myself. Like, I am an only child. I grew up with not a whole lot of family around, just like my parents and my uncle and then my girlfriends. And so my friends have been like my rock throughout my life. And so if I'm not working, I am planning dinner parties for my friends, or I'm planning like a group trip with my friends, because they're the ones who keep me going, and they're the ones that like they. We almost call it church. I call all my girlfriends and I. We call each other Babs. No one has nicknames. We're all just Babs. So like, hey Babs, what are we doing this weekend? Hey Babs, like when's the Babs chat doing this? And we have these like we call it emergency Babs sessions where it's like, okay, everyone's having a hairy time at work. Let's go get Thai food. Let's go sit around a picnic table and like, all right, you go, you go, you go. What's going on? It's like group therapy almost. But I lean on these girls so much. They're in my everything. So I am, if I'm not hanging out with my husband or planning trips and stuff to do with him, I'm hanging out with my girlfriends. And you know this. I mean, like the women in your life, they're everything. They're just the ones who are going to be in your corner no matter what, cheering you on, especially when stuff is hard. And then just for fun, I don't know, I'm just a normal person. Like I like hiking, I like cooking, I like my cats. um, I like going to events around town. And even though I am an introvert by nature, it's moments like this where you're just like talking with one other person, getting full eye contact. This is it's what keeps you going because you get to hear other people's stories, you get to share a little bit about yourself. And then I go home and I'm just like, okay, I need to like rest and recover a little bit because I don't take my energy necessarily from other people. I need that time for myself to reflect and, be on my own because that only child mindset. I'm just like, okay, I need some time to relax. But um everything that I like to do is driven by other people. So if other people are telling me about their hobbies, like I got to hike this mountain, then I want to go hike that mountain and try it too. Like I have a family member who loves pottery. I want to go up to her pottery studio and try that. Like I want to get into screen printing. I want to learn another language. I'm big into Duolingo right now.
Very nice.
Like other people help me learn about the world. That's why I got into journalism. That's why I love this career. It's like you get to learn everything from other people. Everything we do is because of other people.
Yeah.
And so end of the day, I don't want to be that like only child who was trying to figure out the world through her own like writing and art when I was like 12. I want to be surrounded by friends and family my whole life and also developing this career that's all about other people's stories. My yearbook quote as a senior in high school was, "Don't worry about your life story. That's my job." It was a quote from a Chuck Palahniuk book. And it was because I always knew I wanted to be in journalism. I always knew I wanted to like promote and lift up other people through storytelling. And in journalism, it's not always going to be positive storytelling, right? It's sometimes going to be letting the public know what they need to know
Mhm.
about, taxpayer funded this or how their lives are going to change because of some crazy investment in a community. Um, but you can also, especially in features journalism, which I now manage at .com, you are lifting people up every time you do a story and you're getting to meet people around town. That is so life-giving to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask you, did you always know you'd end up in this industry and doing what you're doing? But,
Yep, I did.
and you have to really truly just love people and be a curious cat in a way. And
You're a curious cat. I mean,
I've
asking questions.
it's a lot of what you said resonated with me. I'm kind of
Good.
like a sponge, because
Yeah.
I also come from a very small family.
Yeah.
I have one other sibling, but definitely resonate with a lot of what you said. A lot of my upbringing really centered around my friends.
Mhm.
And to me, friends are family.
Yep, they are.
You don't always get to choose who you're blood related to, but you do
Right.
get to choose your family, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just having a genuine love and curiosity for people. Where's your favorite place to hike in Central New York?
Adirondacks. Easy. And, like, I'm not
What's
like
your
a f
favorite mountain?
ooh, big slide.
Okay.
Because it was the hardest one for me. I remember coming down, I hike with my husband, Chris. He's an athletic person. I am not. So I remember like whining on the entire way down and I was like close to tears just because, oh, my ankle hurt. I have weak ankles. And I will never forget the way he just kept saying, you got this, you got this. We're this close. Here's some water. I just love that because the story of how I felt so like held up by him and protected by him. I was like, that is a mountain where it's like, yeah, I'm with the person. I'm with the person who I want to be with my whole life because even when stuff is hard, if you have at least one person in your ear just being like, you got this, then yeah, you feel like you can literally move up and down mountains. It's great.
And in terms of media consumption,
Yeah.
obviously you're producing a lot of media that is being consumed by others, but what are
Mm.
some of your favorite maybe influencers or podcasts to listen to? I'd love to know.
Okay. So I'm an old school news girly. So I do love the New York Times. We're subscribers to the New York Times. We're subscribers to the Washington Post. So that's what we consume every day. The Daily with Michael Barbaro. I am interested in the news of the world, so that's what I'm listening to on a regular basis. I've listened to your podcast. I loved what you did with Stephanie Crockett, with Amy Blyer Long. I listened to your most recent one with Lauren. Like, I love local podcasts also. And then I'm getting really into, I'm not a subscriber of the Minnesota Star Tribune or the Boston Globe, but their social media presence is so playful. And it's like you can be an old school traditional newsroom, but you can have so much fun on social. And that's what it's for.
Mhm.
That's where you do it. And they jump on trends fast, but they're just messing around. And for the longest time, I just didn't understand social media for a news organization. I'm talking with my girlfriends about it. I'm talking with other people in the newsroom. And we come to this conclusion that's like, you're just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. You're learning as you go. But that's what I think we'll use AI a lot for. You talk about how AI will change and shift our industry. I use a tool called Dash Hudson. Dash Hudson tells me when to post because it is constantly learning when our audience is on Instagram, when our audience is on LinkedIn or Facebook or X. And that makes my life so much easier. Before I learned about that, we were growing maybe like 1,000 new followers a month on Facebook, another 1,000 followers. By the time I realized how you can leverage AI in order to figure out when your followers are looking for your content, then we shot up to just 32,000 new followers for This Is CNY specifically. And I just didn't know that tool existed. And I was like, oh, that's how this works. Okay. So, to conclude that little narrative, I just think that there are so many tools that we don't understand our audiences unless we're really listening to them, and AI can help do that.
Wow, I never even thought of it like that. Dash Hudson, you said?
Dash Hudson,
I'm
yeah.
downloading it.
Yeah. Like, okay, so imagine you think you're a media company, you think maybe you post stuff at 6 a.m., right?
Okay.
For our newsroom, that is when our readers are up. Our readers here in
Yeah.
Central New York, they want a 6 a.m. news story. They also want content at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Like they are reading the news before they go to work, just like morning newspaper people did, right? But for This Is CNY, that audience, they're mostly women, they're mostly millennials. And we know they're looking at their phones and scrolling and looking for This Is CNY stuff around 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. It wasn't until Dash Hudson told me that that's when you should be posting. That's what's going to grow your audience. And it was true. And it's not even until like a year later, I'm seeing those returns and being like, oh, I didn't realize that I should be seeing what the audience wants, not just when I
Mhm.
think stuff should go up. Makes a lot of sense.
I come from in terms of my own strategy, everything is very intuitive, and I'm more of a creative type of person and not a super analytical type of person. So I think one of the biggest shifts for me this year has been really wrapping my head around it, around the data and the analytics, and
Hmm.
actually realizing that you're here to serve your audience, and everything's not just what you think it should be.
Yeah.
So I'm still learning about how to analyze things, and
Yeah.
still learning about the tools like Dash Hudson, that will help me with that.
What you're saying resonates so deeply with me too. I'm a creative. We talked about being theater kids growing
Yeah.
up. We recognize when an audience likes something. We hear the
Yes. We know how
applause.
to entertain.
We
Like, I
do.
just feel like my whole life, my purpose has been to entertain others.
Yeah, and that's it's amazing to know your purpose and to be like, all right, everything I do from now on is going to feed that. So I didn't like numbers or analytics at all either. Now that I'm in a management role, I'm realizing how important that side of things is. I have to light up that side of my brain
Mhm.
and recognize, look, a lot of the people who pay for our coverage, they are people who are reading about high school sports. I don't have a kid in high school.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in this high school system, but I recognize that is going to be a huge part of our business forever as long as they are going to pay for that coverage. And so that might not be the work that I do, but I am going to be full force about like how are ways that we can grow that side of the business. Um, Here's something that really surprised me because I love theater. You mentioned you love theater. We have theater freelancers. We have people, not a whole lot of people cover theater in town. As soon as the Syracuse New Times folded, we lost that alternative voice for entertainment in the area outside of us. So
Mhm.
Syracuse.com covers theater like nobody else does. We cover the reviews, we do previews for the shows. They do not get a lot of readership. Theater does not bring in a lot of eyeballs, but we have kept it as part of our news coverage because we believe it's like the vegetables. It's like people need to love the arts. People, the arts matter, and it's a big part of having a robust and cool and interesting region. So we're going, even if theater doesn't make us money, we're still going to throw resources at it, and that's just a business decision that we make. So like, if you like theater, please read our
And
stuff.
I love that you said that because I think it might be easy, especially being a larger media company, to get swept away by what's going to be the most profitable, what makes the
Yeah,
most sense for the business, and that's what we're going to really zone in on. But the
yeah,
thing that I love about running a media company is that you get to decide intuitively what is important for people to hear and to see and to
hmm,
know, and you even get to decide what's important to you. I mean,
yep,
I like that nobody's telling me what to do, and I
hmm,
get to inform and engage people in a way that I think is important
yeah,
to the region and to just because also our audience, like I understand our audience because I'm a part of it.
yes,
And that's been nice too. But going back to something else you said, you don't have a kid in the high school
hmm,
system. Our audience is 95% women, and a lot of
hmm,
our audience are mothers.
yeah,
I'm not a mother.
hmm,
And understanding the data and understanding your audience is so important because there were moments where I scheduled events at a time that was so not ideal for mothers, and I didn't understand why people weren't
yeah,
attending. And
yeah,
it's like, Alex, rewind. Not every decision is based off of something you think will work. You really have to go back, do your homework, go back to the drawing board,
yeah.
and understand how you can best serve the people that are here already.
Yes. I love that you say that. And because they'll surprise you too. Like then you create events or content for moms, and then you realize, oh, this is good for business. And maybe it wasn't a surprise, but like if you realize how profitable that could be or how impactful that would be for your audience, then you're going to make business decisions based on that. We learned that with art. Like we were not getting a whole lot of interest in art stories for a very long time. But just playing around because I love graffiti, I love public art, we started doing a
Mhm.
lot more stories about public art and like the sort of, the pieces that you'll see on just walls of old buildings, crumbling old buildings here in Syracuse, and realized that kind of art resonates with our audience way more than gallery openings. So we're still going to do both. But that has changed the way that, yeah, you're in the driver's seat. You get to direct coverage. I get to direct coverage now, which is, I'm still new to this, but you love seeing when something works. And it surprised me. And so, yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot more art coverage going forward. That's not the traditional stuff that we've always seen in the paper. It's
Yeah.
big.
Well, you are in the director's seat now, but for the longest time, you have been the content creator.
Mm.
Um, what does that process look like for you? How do you go from deciding what you want to cover and how to build into that and really create not only engaging content that's going to reach a lot of people, but
Mhm.
something that is going to make an impact and also on not only the region, but the company too.
Alex, I was not sure about going into any kind of management. I thought my whole life I would be a reporter,
Mhm.
individual contributor. I loved video. I was like, I am good being a video journalist my whole life. It was only when a job opened up that I really sat down and just sat with myself, thought about what I wanted to challenge myself with next in my career. And then I asked a lot of people. Like, I was a curious kid. I was an annoying kid. I just wanted to know how everything worked. So I turned that reporter side of me to like asking everyone in my newsroom, how did you know that you wanted to be an editor? How did you know that you wanted to stop reporting stories? Because that's what I love. I love creating videos. I love writing. I love art. So I wanted to create. And the idea of managing made me feel like I would turn off that creative side of me. And I was afraid to lose that. Now I'm realizing not only is that creative side always going to be available, and I can always go back in and do videos and write stories and take photos, but getting to help others elevate their coverage and see different ideas for themselves, that is deeply gratifying. I didn't expect that.
Mhm.
But I'd done some teaching. So I teach multimedia storytelling for the Newhouse School online for online classes. So I did a little bit of that a couple years ago and realized I really do love teaching, but I didn't know that about myself until I tried it. And that has turned out to be one of the best career moves that I've ever made. Just realizing that, oh, I do love teaching and I love helping with story development and I love inspiring other people to try something new. Like, we've got a great outdoors reporter named Steve Featherstone, and he's one of the most decorated writers, and he's so talented, and he has vision for photography and video. But right now, we're pushing him to do more video where he's editing it himself. This is not something that he's familiar with, but he is also in the last month just created and turned out these amazing videos because he's just practicing it. And I think part of that is just like seeing if you push someone a little bit and see what they are curious about themselves, and you get to guide that. Oh my gosh, it's the most gratifying thing. And so I was like, okay, I think I think I am actually a little good at this and maybe can keep trying it and growing in different ways going forward. But I never want to leave media. Like, I never want to leave journalism. This is the world for me. It's just a matter of like, what other ways can I grow in podcasting, directing coverage down the line?
I know you probably were afraid at first of like losing that creative side, but you're still very much being creative just in a different way and you get to kind of almost zoom out
Hmm.
and take a look at a lot more content
Yeah.
than you were able to before
Yeah.
because you would probably work from story to story and definitely a little pivot. But another thing I've realized being someone who really loves the creative side of this work
Yeah.
and has had to learn the more analytical and more calculated side of this work. It's
Yeah.
actually kind of fun to do that stuff too. And in a
Hmm.
way it's still creative and it
Hmm.
serves both sides. You when you understand the data behind things, you're able to make informed decisions around the creative work. It almost like fuels it because you're gonna hit that goal and make that impact rather than just
Yes.
basing it off of I think this will work, I hope it'll work.
Hmm.
Before we wrap things up, what are some tools that you use in your day to day that you think has maximized your productivity, efficiency, and success?
We talked a little bit about AI. I didn't realize this was like an AI thing, but I do a lot of video production, and this was just like the silliest thing. I had been hand typing subtitles for my Instagram videos for so many years, Alex, so many years, until I realized AI has this tool where it can just take in an interview like this and then match the subtitles and the captions. That has been the thing where I'm like, oh, yep, that saves me hours,
I could only imagine doing
hours.
all the subtitles by hand.
So I did that for a few years and then I realized, oh, this is a really useful tool. That is my favorite. It is AI. And it's not like, I think what people don't fully understand and misunderstand about what AI in media is going to be. We're not trying to generate stories. We're not trying to generate headlines. All of that is going to be human reporting, and it always should be.
Mhm.
But the parts of the job that are mundane, that are tasks like typing in subtitles for a video, that is what AI is there for. That is what that should be for. That was a big learning experience for me. But I will continue to use social media and video tools for all kinds of our coverage. I was a very early big believer in, look, we can't just have print, paper stories, be online and have that be it. Like, we need to be considering, is this a video? Is this a photo or is this a photo gallery? Is this a huge social media carousel? How are we rolling this out on TikTok? Is this going to be a 6-episode podcast about a cult in Ithaca? Like,
I would so listen to that.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. But I mean, or should we do a trailer for this written story, a video trailer for it? None of that is traditional media. But those are all ways that we need to be thinking about every piece of content, every story, every next step for what we do. And so I think I'm proud to be able to use a lot of different tools in news coverage that's not just writing.
What is your project management tool? I'm curious. I just started using this year. We got onto Monday.com, but I know a lot of people use Notion and a bunch of other tools like that.
This is so funny. I don't know what you mean by project management. Like content management?
Like task management, campaign like,
oh, this is
are
so
you guys
embarrassing.
all in like one
No.
interface hub where you guys can keep track of everything? Or like, how are you guys actually staying on top of things if you don't have one?
Notes. I mean, here's the thing. We work in a newsroom where all the people on my department, we are face-to-face most days.
Okay.
Half of the staff is remote and they might have, they might email back and forth. We use Teams, certainly for video calls and stuff like that. But when we have a project, we are in person. And I believe so strongly in like the capacity for people to do anything they want as long as they're having these face-to-face conversations. That is where creative juices flow. That is where people inspire each other. That is where the personal relationships thrive because you're creating jokes, you're having humor, you're being able to be human beings around each other. So we don't have a project management tool because we're just in there together in rooms. But in terms of like organizing myself, I'm just an old school kid. I just use like notes on my laptop. That's it. And I'll email my stuff if I forget stuff. That's the only way I keep on top of stuff.
Oh my gosh. God bless.
There's probably better
I'm on
stuff
a
out there.
whole platform and I still don't know what's going on.
I mean, it's whatever works, right?
Maybe it's not working.
No,
I don't
it's
know.
whatever works. Is you've got like a pen and paper and that's what keeps you going. I mean, that's what I do. I just have a list of written stuff and
I love it.
Yeah, that's
it. That gives me hope.
Good. It's like, what do you mean project management? Shoot, maybe we should really think that.
No, you guys are doing amazing.
We've done
Don't change a thing.
Big projects, and I think we've just figured it out by talking to each other. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. Amazing. You know what? Some things just work.
Yeah. I think human interaction is key.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have anything coming up in 2025 or any maybe hopes, manifestations that you're looking forward to that you can share?
I think because this is CNY is still so new, I'm ready for it to grow, right? I mean, we have a team certainly and great managers, but it has been just me doing the website management, social. I am curating work that's being done by other reporters from Syracuse.com, but I'm also doing a lot of the stuff myself. So we launched a brand that is, I think, a little recognized in town and has a good following now, but I want to bring more people in to be able to work with me, to be able to grow that brand significantly. It's less than a year old, Alex, right now.
And how many followers do you guys have now?
On Facebook, we just hit 32. So that's very exciting. But, Syracuse.com has like 500,000. So I want us not to get to that point because we're not trying to be a new news source for the entire region. We have a very specific mission. But we do, we have corporate partners that we want to maintain those relationships. And we want to be able to be a go-to resource to be able to recruit talent to this area because we already have so many talented people here, but we need more to be able to make Micron happen, to be able to make I-81 happen, and to continue to see growth in this region. We need more people from all across the country to choose Central New York as their place to live. So we're just a little part about hopefully moving that needle forward.
And where can everybody find you? Go ahead and not only this is CNY, which obviously they can find you guys online on Instagram, Facebook, X. But what about you, Katrina?
Just me. It's just my name. Katrina Tulloch on Instagram, Twitter. X, anywhere, LinkedIn. I mean, yeah, follow me. I'm also just a gal around town. So like find me at the fish fryer. I'll be eating the shrimp salad.
Everyone loves the fish fryer. I still have
Do
to go
you?
there. I haven't been.
Are you a seafood girl?
Yeah. Yeah. That didn't sound very convincing.
It didn't,
I'm
but
just
that's
not
okay.
like a fish fry girl.
That's okay.
You
I'm
know?
going to turn you on to their smoked salmon salad, and it's going to change your life.
I see that sounds right up my alley.
Perfect.
Except it has to be extra smoked because I'm insane and I order my salmon like well done, like
Yes.
basically overcooked.
Yeah, I'm the same way. It is extra
Bone
smoked.
dry.
You're going to love this.
I love it. Okay, great. Put me on. Well,
Good.
thank you so much for sitting down with me, Katrina. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. This is wonderful.
Amazing. And I'm definitely going to look into the Syracuse Press Club. That sounds like a lot of fun.
You should join.
Thanks. All right, guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Cultivate CNY. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you left us a review and make sure you're subscribed to the show. Speaking of the show, if you know anyone or if you are interested in being our next guest on Cultivate CNY, be sure to submit us an application. You can just click the link in the show notes. And if you're a business owner that's interested in getting in front of our audience, you can go ahead and email us at podcast@cnywomensnetwork.com to learn more about sponsorship and advertising opportunities. All right, that's it for now. I'll catch you guys next Monday.